Morning, everybody. Welcome to the morning meeting on the day after a big deal was struck. We're going to break down what goes next in the wake of eight Democratic senators breaking not just from their colleagues and their leader, but from online blue Twitter and blue sky and MSNBC. A very big moment for the Democratic Party, and not really clear exactly what happened, but we'll try to explain it to you. Everything about the deal, then President Trump's late night pardons of Rudy Giuliani and many others. Democrats concerned that the president is being booed and falling asleep, and opposition research. Rahm Emanuel shows some of his cards in a Wall Street Journal op-ed. All that and more right here on the morning meeting. Gentlemen, Sean, are you wearing fairway and green?
Am I wearing a fairway and green?
What do you got on there? What do you got on there?
Yeah, I got the just another beautiful, well-fitting, comfortable fairway and green polo. This one's striped. I'm not a big fan of stripes, but for some reason you put a fairway and green shirt on me and stripes are okay. This is branded with the logo on the side, you
I
know.
didn't think Red Sox fans wore pinstripes, but I guess they
Yeah.
do, huh?
Even as we head into the new week, past the election, the 25% discount using election code election25 is still available to you. Go to two-way.tv/fairway. 25% off the whole site, whether you want the two-way merch or just everything else on the site. Two-way.tv/fairway election25. All right. Now, we're going to run through the day book. We're going to chat about the deal and everything else. And then if you're here on the two-way platform and want to get in on the conversation, as always, we'll take your questions. If you're here, please raise your hand. This meeting is based on the Network News Division's morning meetings they have every day, just like this. They talk about what's happening, forward-looking emphasis. If you're watching on X or YouTube, no smack in the chat. We urge you to just think about peace, love, and understanding, and no smack in the chat, please. And we're excited to tell you about our new sponsor, Chef IQ. Go to chefiq.com. I'll tell you what you can do there for a big 30% off. Over the weekend, to talk to someone about their Thanksgiving coming up, and they said last year on Thanksgiving, they put the turkey in the oven, and the oven wasn't really working, but they didn't realize that until it was too late. So horrible story,
Ooh.
particularly if you're squirmish about undercooked poultry. They took the turkey out and semi-raw, they sliced it and then microwaved it.
Oh,
Sounds disgusting.
Oh,
You don't want this
what
to
could you
happen to
have
you.
done
Like,
instead, though?
I don't know.
Chinese
Well, that's what they
pizza?
did.
Like,
Exactly. Peanut butter and jelly. Anyway, right now, if you don't want to have a situation like that, go to Chef IQ, uh, uh, sorry, chefiq.com, chefiq.com, and look into their Chef IQ Sense. It's a wireless cooking thermometer, takes the guesswork out of holiday cooking and cooking all year round. You just put it in and go to the app, tells you everything. It works on steak, chicken, fish, whatever you're cooking. You'll wonder how you ever cooked without it. Plus, it's the ultimate holiday gift. Perfect for seasoned cooks, kitchen rookies, and everyone in between. 30% off this modern cooking system that allows you to cook with technology. 30% off. Go to chefiq.com, promo code 2WMM. Chefiq.com, 2WMM for 30% off. Again, chefiq.com, promo code 2WMM, and cook right this holiday season and beyond. All right, the day book. The president today am I looking at the wrong place here? Let's see. I'll put up the president's schedule while I try to find the president's schedule here. This giant document I'm looking at, which doesn't seem to have the president's. Oh, here it is. All right, there's the president's schedule. Bilateral meeting with the president of Syria. First time a president of Syria has been at the White House in like 50 years. That's at 11 a.m. Currently closed press. Don't be surprised if it opens up. Same with the 3 p.m. Swearing in for the ambassador to India, who happens to be Sergio Gore, a close friend of everyone Trump. So those are his two events today. Don't know what the vice president's doing. House is not in. Another Speaker Johnson press conference at 10. Hakeem Jeffries press conference at 12. The Senate's going to start voting at 11. All eyes on Rand Paul in particular as to how long he wants this whole process to take. Uh, House Republicans are holding a conference call at 11:30. House Democrats virtual caucus at 3. The speaker's on with Jake Tapper at 5. We'll talk about all of that in a moment. Utah District Court judge is expected to rule on their very complicated redistricting schemes. They've got different options. And then coming up this week, Jimmy Kimmel Live. Guests include George Clooney and Mike Tyson,
ooh.
plus Justin Bateman. And Colbert's guests this week, Demi
Wait, wait.
Moore.
Justine Bateman?
Justine Bateman. No, Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I was
Sorry.
going to say, he's
Sorry.
not going to have Justine
Yeah.
on.
No, Jason Bateman. You're right. Late
Red
show.
flag.
Listen to these late show guests. Demi Moore. Some people pronounce it Demi.
Ooh.
Ken Burns, Claire Danes, Jonathan Carl, and maybe best of all, Jim Clyburn of the famous Fish Fry.
I
All
wonder if
right.
he announces his retirement this week.
Well, he was asked about that in an interview I saw over the weekend, and you know, I'll summarize this response. Shorter Jim Clyburn. Humana, humana, humana.
Yeah,
humana.
exactly.
He didn't
Yeah.
really answer. So we'll see. All right. Where am I going next? One more sponsor to add because we have to pay the bills around here.
It's Monday.
Cozy Earth. Cozy
It's
Earth.
going to be cold this week too, by the way.
Yeah.
Very cold. here
Very
in the
cold.
Northeast.
Cozy Earth again. Magical clothes keep you cool when it's hot out, keep you warm when it's cold out. 40% off now still on their crazy Black Friday sale. Not only did it come early, it's going long.
I took advantage of it over the weekend. I'm just
What'd you
saying,
get?
if you're
What'd you
on my
get?
Christmas list, you might be
Yeah.
I
getting
got cozier
something.
shorts on today. Yep.
Yeah, I got the towels. They're incredible. Finally
All
arrived.
right, I did. I got those.
CozyEarth.com.
I did. I got the towels, Mark. You
Yeah,
said it.
they're
I
good.
did it.
They're soft. Like
Well, I'll tell you when I
just
get
pour
them.
them on the bed and roll around in them like I'm a puppy. CozyEarth.com, promo code Mark, 40% off the sheets, the towels, the bubble cuddle blanket, the pants. Oh my goodness, the pants. The shirts, t-shirts, everything. 40% off. Wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth. Again, right now, don't wait. Go to CozyEarth.com, use the promo code Mark, M-A-R-K, for 40% off everything on the site, CozyEarth.com. Don't make any hesitation. Go do it now. All right, gentlemen, there's so much to talk about regarding the deal. Big question for a lot of people is why did these Democratic senators, including Dick Durbin and a bunch of more moderate gubernatorial governing types, why did they end the shutdown? Lots of ways to try to explain it. Here is man, this is a long list of things I got to scroll through. My apologies. Well, play the mashup of the senators. Play the mashup of the Democratic senators. I'll tell you the number in a moment.
This is the beginning to show and fight for Americans across the country. Let me just say this. With the government open, we can focus on passing a full bipartisan budget for 2026.
I understand that not all of my Democratic colleagues are satisfied with this agreement, but waiting another week or another month wouldn't deliver a better outcome.
It was our judgment after 6 weeks, going on 7 weeks of this shutdown, that path wasn't working.
Airlines which have been
So
dealing
that
with
Schumer sound, that Shaheen sound bites in some ways the key, as I understand it from talking to folks and reading the coverage. They didn't think there was a better deal coming up anytime soon. Be interesting later this week when Senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker, is supposed to speak at a big dinner in New Hampshire that Shaheen and her colleague, who also voted for the deal, will be at, because a lot of the energy in the room will be against the deal that their own senators voted for. Also against the deal, Senator Chuck Schumer. Here's his 12-second explanation. 106B, please.
For months and months, Democrats have been fighting to get the Senate to address the health care crisis. This bill does nothing to ensure that that crisis is addressed. I am voting no, and I will keep fighting.
Despite that, 107, Ro Khanna and other Democrats are saying Schumer failed. He should have kept the 8 in line. Here's the,
Yeah, by the way, he doesn't say I urge my colleagues to vote against this.
Right.
yeah.
He's silent on it.
You might as well have winked at the end of that
Yeah.
video, been like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm
You all-
voting no.
You all do what you got to do. Schumer is
That's right.
no longer effective and should be replaced. Ro Khanna tweeted, if you can't lead to the fight to stop healthcare premiums from skyrocketing for Americans, what will you fight for? Now, Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna, and I, and many others agree that the Democrats basically caved. But there are some who are saying Democrats actually won this fight and achieved so very, very much. I don't know how many of them actually believe it versus spin, but here's someone I respect. This is Claire McCaskill, former senator, on Morning Joe, claiming victory, 111.
I think definitely it was a plus for Democrats. We have framed the issue for the country now. It is very clear what the Democrats are fighting for and what they're fighting against. And we've got Trump tearing down the White House and figuring out ways to get tax breaks to billionaires in the back door. And we're arguing about the best way to fight for most Americans, for their health care costs and for other costs that they're facing every day. And listen, I mean, are there disagreements within the party about how best to do this? Yeah, there are. But, you know, our party, the Democratic Party, is fighting how we best fight for everyday Americans. And you know what the Republicans are fighting about? The Republicans are fighting about whether or not they should platform Nazis. So, I mean, I like that we have a disagreement about the best way to do it.
All right, let's talk first about just the legislative process here before we talk about whether it was a big win for the Democrats or not. First, Sean, what happens next? What does Rand Paul do? What does the House do? And then what happens on health care?
So there are a few things. One, by passing the three additional bills, the military, the VA part of this, they're taking a lot of the stuff off the table, which is really important as we go forward. That's a
Snap.
key component to this deal, because when we go into January and we shut the government down again, in case you haven't seen the what do they go, the trilogy, I think we're probably at this point. That's going to be a big deal because it's going to lessen the blow. So, I mean, look, I think they get the votes today. It goes to the House. The House will vote on Wednesday, Thursday. It opens back up again. On healthcare, everyone I asked last night, the same thing over and over again. What's the deal? Punt was the word of the night. Punt. They'll have a vote. And then I think this is where it's going to get complicated. Hopefully, if the Democrats are smart, this is where it gets interesting for Republicans, because now we've got to figure out duration of subsidies, if any, and percentage of overall. So this is where I think that, you know, and then plus, oh, by the way, we're kicking the can for what, 12 weeks when we're going to have to do this all over again. So, I mean, all we've done is a very Washington thing, which is to buy time.
Dan, anything part of the legislative process you want to highlight that Sean didn't mention?
No, I think the only thing I would add is just kind of splitting the Claire McCaskill thing, which is that, look, we lost the shutdown battle. The question is, can you win the healthcare war for the reason that Sean just said, which is now you are turning attention to that. And that is where we are more united. Republicans are more divided. You had Trump saying we'll send money and Cassidy directly to people. Like, it splits everything in half. So I think to move on, right? Because it's real lives of real people, and focus on healthcare.
But Dan,
so can we just go back to just real quick on the deal? I mean, look, there's a lot of things that I think we can take away. One, the Dems were never going to win this, and they knew it. This was the equivalent of us with the wall, you know, 8 years ago, which was, it was just a matter of time before you, quote, caved. Every one of those Democrats owes a debt of gratitude to the 8 that jumped in, because the reality was all it was going to do is get more painful. The air traffic control was coming to a grinding halt. And I think that the reality is those 8 people bailed out everybody else. And they can put out their cute little statements, but at the end of the day, they should give them a little slap on the back later today and say, hey, thanks for doing this for me.
I mean, I totally agree with you. The idea that people were going to go hungry at Thanksgiving, that air traffic was going to start grinding to a halt, that people were going to have more and more paychecks missing. When, by the way, some of these people who voted, 150,000 federal employees are in their combined three of the senators' states. Like, the real lives of real people. Like, when the party says just squeeze harder, and like, we'll keep it shut down till January. Like, that's insane in terms of people's lives. It just is.
So, what's I know none of the 8 are up for re-election.
Yep.
And I know they're of a certain category of, you know, problem solvery types, but why was it just those 8? Was because Schumer secretly said, let's get 8, and that's why Durbin had to do it, because there wasn't an 8th and Durbin fell on his sword? Like,
well, somebody with Mr. Jeffrey's office pointed out to me this morning, like, where the House is frustrated and the party's frustrated is Shaheen and others from day one were saying, we're having a conversation. We're trying to think of a way to negotiate out of this. And to some in the party, you undercut our stance from day one. There was a group that was never comfortable with the shutdown, which we talked about, I think, in August. And they kept, as they should, working toward a solution to avoid the pain to real lives of real people. And so I think it's not that this suddenly they kickstarted. It's that for 40 days, they sat there and stared at a wall while some were negotiating. And they just said, are we really going to stay dug in for 2 more months?
Yeah, you know, lots of almost any Democrat with a tough primary is going to come out against this deal, right? Yep. Because they have to. Let me read you a statement from one Democrat who's running for Congress in a contested House primary. Improving health care has been the cause of my life. It's why I'm running for Congress. So I cannot support this deal when Speaker Johnson refuses to even allow a vote to extend health care tax credit. Too many people see health care costs that are already too high skyrocket. This means more people will be uninsured. We need to both end the shutdown and extend the tax credits. Otherwise, no deal. Goes on. Interesting, though, the reason I'm highlighting this particular statement, even though it sounds like many others, Stephanie Shaheen, Jeanne Shaheen's own daughter, who's running for the House in New Hampshire, opposes the deal her mother just struck.
Thanksgiving should be fun.
Yeah. I guess I ask again for either of you, why these 8? Why exactly 8 and why these 8? Because Schumer sanctioned it? Or just by coincidence, or exactly
the Durbin piece is the one that kind of does not fit for me, which
Correct.
is he's a member of leadership.
Right. But it seems like Shaheen and company couldn't get an 8th, and Schumer and Durbin said, "Well, we got to do this." Because
we've talked about Durbin here since September, again, that he was one of the people we all pointed to say, because I think because at the end of the day, they know they've got to get at it. They can't continue to squeeze people this hard, like the real people.
But if these 8 saved everybody else in the party, which is I think what a lot of people believe, that now they're just being pilloried, including by Jeanne Shaheen's own daughters effectively attacking her mom. Like, doesn't seem nice, doesn't seem fair to those 8.
Sure, but I bet they all, I think in Nevada, they won't pay a price. Fetterman's not going to ultimately pay a price. I mean, just go around the map. Chris Pappas can say what he wants, but he should still be, I mean, they fell on the sword for the part. The one who's going to probably take the heat now is Schumer.
Yes.
I mean,
and that's the irony. This is the whole
what we forecast in August.
He played this
exactly what we forecast.
And they're literally just crapping on him the most because it was so fake. The guy literally, I mean, like it's just so inauthentic. And we've talked about the degree of authenticity.
So you two are the Schumer brain trust in the play acting we're about to do. And we turn the clock back 4 months and you see exactly what's transpired. What could he have done differently?
I think what I would do is I would be communicating to the party. Now we have the healthcare fight. Now, this is it, right? We reopened the government because millions and millions of people were going to start starving and flight cancellations. But now we are going to fight over healthcare. It is the defining issue of the next 4 months. Instead, he's just like, I'm a no. This is a bad deal. He's making it worse for himself.
He did say the healthcare thing, but let me ask you this, because Bernie doesn't think Democrats won. No online blue person thinks they won.
You lost the battle.
Even the podcast bros don't think they won. And on healthcare, I agree the Republicans are extremely ridiculous on this and vulnerable. But Democrats' position ranges from single payer to let's talk to Bill Cassidy about sending money to people directly and bypassing insurance companies. Won't they have a problem in 26 and 28, Sean, be on the offense on healthcare when I can tell you what the Democratic Party position on healthcare is?
Sure, extend the ACA credits. There it is.
Well, but that's not happening.
Oh, we'll see about that, Mark. I mean, I think it is. It goes back to
I shouldn't say it's not happening.
Reopen the government. I shouldn't say
it's not happening. I'm saying that doesn't satisfy the whole party. That's not enough for the whole party.
I mean, there'll be some fringe, but it will.
I think that I think the Dem messaging is easier than the Republican because they will buy into extending a lot easier than our side doesn't have a consistent or cohesive. I mean, you've got, to your point, hey, let's just give everyone a ton of money, to we got to blow the system up again, to we got to stop subsidizing insurance companies. We played this game 8 years ago, and there was no answer. So I don't know. I think that to go back to the part of your question, I think one, Schumer should have made this argument a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And two is, or strategically said, guys, we'll keep the government open, but we'll put them on defense on healthcare. There was no strategy. And that was the thing, is even we talk to this every day. What did they want?
What's the end game?
Vote? Yep. Was it? There was no defined strategy and there was no leadership. And if anything, that's what Schumer should go down for, is the fact that nobody understood what they were actually trying to get.
All right, 2 more things on the deal, and then we'll move on to some other topics, and then again get to your questions. Raise your hand if you want in. Ezra Klein says he would have voted no if he were senator. I know you were all waiting to find out what he would have done. Here's 112. This is what Ezra wrote this morning in the wake of the deal, And I just want to go sentence by sentence and ask you guys, just both of you, agree or disagree. First sentence, he says he would have voted against it. Shutdowns are an opportunity to make your arguments, and the country was just starting to pay attention. It's a two-part thing. Do you guys agree with that sentence?
No.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't.
Pay
All right.
attention. I mean, there's a difference.
Well,
between
because the
attention
pain
and
points were getting
painful.
higher, so
Right,
more people
yes.
were dialing into it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But what about the first part? Shutdowns are an opportunity to make your arguments.
Oh, sure, we have for 40 days.
All right. If
Yeah,
Trump
that was
wanted
done.
to cancel flights over Thanksgiving rather than keep healthcare costs down, I don't see why Democrats should save him from making his priorities so exquisitely clear.
Because you're squeezing people. I mean, that's the problem. These aren't pawns on a chessboard. They're American people's lives. That's what he's missing.
But implicit in that also is that Trump was going to be blamed for the canceled flights.
Well, he has been blamed for the shutdown. That's clear as day.
I don't know about this. I think that Sean Duffy's done a fantastic job of making safety the priority, and I don't think anybody.
But who do people blame for the shutdown?
I think there's definitely
by a little bit.
more.
By a little
Look,
bit.
we had two-thirds of the problems. You have Republicans in the legislative branch and Trump versus Democrats. So yeah, we bore a little bit more, but I also believe that as it went on, that was a risk that
Right.
Democrats were taking.
Of course,
Next
I agree.
sentence. I worry that Democrats have just taught Trump that they will fold under pressure.
No, I mean,
you
this
say
goes to the fact that nobody's ever done a shutdown and won.
Correct. That's
So
the bigger takeaway. That's it.
The shutdown caucus is 0 for 14 now.
Okay, last sentence. I'll skip some. It's not a win, meaning for Democrats, but given how badly shutdowns often go for the opposition party, it's better than a loss. Dan, agree with that?
So what does that mean? I mean, this is what it goes to. So I would ask Ezra, if this goes on till January and people are starving and airport traffic stops and Trump does not get, should we just keep going? Because it becomes a who's you know what is biggest at some point.
But is it better than a loss for the Democrats? What happened?
No, because what you do is you say, you lost the battle, but we're going to win the war. Like, that's where the party's got to get its head around. Healthcare went from being like in number 7 or 8 in polls of what's most important to literally number 2 or 3 behind inflation and the economy. So affordability, which is what that fits into, was big on Tuesday. Today, we all would agree, it's still a pretty big issue. We are on offense in that fight. Republicans, get to that terrain. Stop. You weren't going to go 1 for 13. You were going to go 0 for 14. Just like Obama was never going to cave into Ted Cruz.
Sean, what's the White House and Hill Republican strategy now on healthcare?
That's the problem, is that the dog just caught the car. And we've got to figure that, and this is where we can't take our foot off the gas and go, okay, we won. It's now what? So this is going to be the problem. And this, again, is where if Schumer had been a real leader, he would have said, I'm going to box them in on an issue that they don't have an answer for. And he blew it. And that's the video even just now. He had an opportunity to act like he had a plan. He didn't. Now the problem is, Republicans better get their act together really quick.
Yeah.
Because you've got people, Marjorie Taylor Greene, coming out and saying, I want to extend the subsidies, or at least that's the perception of what she said. And you're going to have a food fight within there about, do we extend them at all? Do we extend them for 6 months? Do we extend them at X% of what they are? I mean, so
I don't think the House will extend the subsidies without a lot of market reform.
I agree. Oh, huge. But that's but here's the thing: you're playing with a 3-seat majority. So tell me what the consensus is.
You're also playing with an issue that is now expiring. So people have something, and you are now taking it away from them.
Right.
And that is a huge incentive to all right, we may theoretically have a lot of reforms, but we have to pass this now because I cannot have tens of thousands of my constituents losing health care.
Right. Okay. Last thing, not every 2028 potential candidate has weighed in, but those who have been along these lines. Here's Gavin Newsom, 115, please, on social media after his very well-received appearances over the weekend. America deserves better. Dan, will this vote be an issue in 2028?
Not in 2028, but it will be in our House and Senate primaries, coming up here and starting in 3 months.
But won't everybody be against it?
I don't know. I do think there in some states it will behoove you to say, I am not a fan of shutting the government down.
Right.
What I don't get, though, can I just say this?
Cortez Masto and Jackie Rosen won't pay a price for that stance at all.
What frustrates me about this whole thing, and I get like there's a politics and a strategy piece to this, but there's also a pathetic piece to this, which is to go around and to say America deserves better. With all due respect, I get Governor Newsom's trying to be political, and I have some respect for that part of it. But what is your, I mean, explain to me, and this is what I still can't, I mean, the overall takeaway is the losing side of a shutdown never wins. I mean, like if you're on the backside, we're 14-0 on this. No side's ever been able to explain what you really are getting for and why it's okay. Everybody's on record at one point or another over the last 20 years saying shutdowns are bad ideas. So suddenly to come out and say America deserves better without giving any example of what you were going to do differently is really pathetic.
One more point to hit. Sean told us if Thune kept the Senate in, they would solve it. He kept the Senate in.
There you go.
And they solved it.
Well, I will say, I think air traffic control did have a little something to do with it.
But it was the confluence. All right, late last night, the White House announcer, Ed Martin at the Justice Department, announced something that the president did on Friday, 1/22, pardons for a gaggle of people who were connected to January 6th. That's not the right one. 122, please. 122.
We can talk about that.
Trump pardons exactly. Giuliani, Powell, Chesbrough, and dozens more involved in 2020 fake electors case. Sean, why did he do this, and will it have an impact?
Will it have an impact? I think, at least from the MAGA base, it seems very, very popular right now. I don't know.
Start with why did he do it?
Because I think
none of them face federal charges.
Right, but I think that there's obviously a sense of, I mean, the bigger question in my mind is why now? Because clearly it was teed up.
Right. Do you know why? I mean, maybe why now? Because he thought it'd be buried in the.
I was just going to say the tree will fall.
No. Yep. But I think that the question is, I mean, you may have been ready to go and you just pulled the plug because you're like, hey, let's bury it. But that kind of list, as you saw that Ed Martin put out, is rather extensive. It's like 200 people. Yeah. So therefore, they had this ready to go.
Right. So I'll ask you again, why did he do it?
Since January 21st.
Why did he do it, and will it have an impact?
Well, I mean, I think why he did it is because they wanted to protect these people from, in case they lose the House.
Dan, will this have an impact?
I don't. Yes and no. I think collectively, all of these pardons that are clearly his like personal grievance, where the country is not really with him. Yes, it could. It could, just like Rahm Emanuel's corruption. You know, the kind of documenting of the alleged corruption and these pardons. It does. Swing voters don't like it. They just don't like it, and I think you're seeing it in last Tuesday a little bit.
Right. So Democrats continue to be divided about where to focus. Should they go after every little thing Donald Trump does or every big thing he does, or should they just be focused on affordability? Here's two issues filling my inbox. Democrats quite active. First, the president went to a football game, and apparently if you're Donald Trump, would the district vote for Harris? 91%?
Well, it's technically in Prince George's County, which is probably 90-10.
Yeah. So if you go to a football, but they come from all over, obviously. If you go to a sporting event in the DC area and you're Donald Trump, this is what's likely to happen. Number 123, please. All right, and then here's 125B. It's from the Oval Office last week at that event over injectables.
People can sleep again because they can
see
breathe
the president
when they go
there.
to bed.
People can sleep again. So just following Dr. Oz's advice. People can sleep again. And here's 125A. This is Gavin Newsom having some fun with this. Dozy Don is back because it appears the president is, let's say, he's resting his eyes. And then the president's poll numbers are down in some polls. And so again, if you're a Democrat who wants to say, finally, Lucy did not take her finger off the football. She did not pull it up in the air. Charlie Brown has kicked now the ball through the uprights. Dan, are these things, booing, sleeping, poll numbers, is this it? Is this the moment the left has been waiting for, or just another mirage and distraction?
Yeah, it's not a distraction in that, look, but booing is whatever. It's a Democratic city. If Kamala Harris went to the LSU Auburn game or Alabama game Saturday night, I bet she would have been booed if she were on there. I think, the fact that Trump has dozed off like before in the Oval Office, the fact that he is getting older, his base isn't going to leave him from it. But sure, you can have a little fun with him on that stuff. To me, the corruption, the pardons, it won't be the focus, but it should be woven into stump speeches and talking points for sure.
Sean, I've fallen asleep during a live television interview, a live radio interview, and in a Supreme Court oral argument. So I stand second to no person.
Well, the Supreme
defending.
Court one, I can see why. I mean, I would probably.
Well, I was there to hear a case in which I was a plaintiff, but you hear the case before you too.
Aren't the lights turned down low there in the Supreme Court?
Oh my God! And it's like the Council on Foreign Relations. It's basically asking you to fall asleep. Now, that Oval Office event was quite lengthy. The president's, he can be tired too. But if you were the White House press secretary, would you be looking to avoid those situations? And if so, how would you get him an iced tea, Diet Coke? Like, how do you avoid the president nodding off?
He's got plenty of Diet Cokes. Look, I think the one thing that is different in Trump world, taking this in reverse, the dozing off stuff, it's not like the president's not visible and working, right? He's on trips, he's coming back, he's doing this. I think, and I say this in all seriousness, like I think people half his age would be exhausted trying to keep
all true, but how do you keep him from falling asleep?
The visuals of him falling asleep in the middle of his own meeting is not. That would Joe Biden
as a staffer. Yes, as a staffer.
But the difference is that people believe the perception.
No, they don't.
Well, some do.
No, they don't.
Some do. But I'm just asking you from a practical matter as a staffer. You don't want to happen. What do you do to keep him from
No. So let's just get to it. If it was a pattern where it happened multiple times, I think we would say, Mr. President, let's have events earlier in the day, or let's just. I think one event after the guy's been overseas, he's had a series of deals. I honestly, that's not something I would sweat. I will just weigh in on the booing thing. I get where the president was, and I'm obviously 10 miles from there. I understand, even if he'd come over to Virginia, it would have probably not been that different. What appalled me about that was that he was enlisting service members while that was happening on Veterans Day weekend. I found that disgusting and pathetic. If you are sitting there, you want to boo the president when he arrives or whatever, you have a First Amendment right to do that. While members of our country are on the field being sworn into our armed services, and that's how you act, it actually just viscerally upset the hell out of me to watch fellow Americans boo people who are on the field getting sworn in to serve our country. That I hope those images. No. But Dan, you could have waited. I mean, my point is there's a time and a place, and that was not it. The guy was there for a while. You want to boo his arrival or his departure? You have a First Amendment right to do that. That was not the time to do it. Now you have a protected right to do it. I'm not, but here's my point. I want those photos. I will do what I can on social media to make sure that every one of those people that I can find in the audience booing while that was happening gets exposed, because that to me is disgusting.
Sorry, can we jump to CNN? Just listen to a little more Jeanne Shaheen. She's defending her vote.
I had a nickel.
In the defense, they may not have heard what the president was saying, and secondarily in their defense, they might have been drunk out of their minds. So
it was.
Well, also he went to a football game to get a national. I mean, he knew what he was doing.
Let's listen to Shaheen.
Going to change their position. So we need to get the government open because we have millions of Americans who are suffering, whether it's because they're not getting their food benefits or because travelers can't get their flights because of what's happening with the aviation system and air traffic controllers, federal employees who are not getting paid. And this is a deal that brings back those federal employees who were let go during the shutdown. It makes sure that everybody
Tim
gets
Kaine
their
is
back
simultaneously
pay.
on MSNBC,
It
also
provides
defending he's
protections for
another of the
workers
yes
going
votes.
forward.
Well, that was his
And
big
it gets
vote,
people
was
their
getting
food
the people
benefits.
rehired.
Part of this deal was
I just
making
find it
sure
interesting that
we
they're
can
going
pass,
out. Like
bills
normally
that have
these kind of
been
groups don't go out
already
en masse
passed
in my
by both the
experience.
House and Senate
I think you
and
have
They're
to
everywhere
today.
that
Yeah,
fund,
you have to today.
things like SNAP benefits,
They're
the food
owning the thing.
program, the
Yep.
WIC program for
Hey, Lori,
mothers
see if you
and
can book
children
Jeanne Shaheen and her
that fund
daughter on
veterans
two-way tonight.
benefits.
I'd like them
So,
both. Like to do
while
like
we
a
still have
Shaheen
to
on
argue
debate.
about
All right.
extending the premium tax
Okay,
credits,
you
and I
drop out of
intend to be
that.
part
One
of
more
that
topic,
fight.
and then to your question. So please, if you're here in the conversation, here on the platform, want to get in the conversation, raise your hand. We'd love some new people. So if you've never raised your hand before, today's a good day. All right, Gavin Newsom. I don't know if did you guys watch his speech in Texas?
I saw clips of it. Yeah,
it was excellent.
Yep.
He was so good compared to most people.
Andy Brashear.
About right. I didn't say that, but
Who we love, who we always great.
We love, great affection for, but he's not in that category. And he was pretty good with Tapper in his Sunday interview. got me thinking. Maybe he's getting so far out ahead that somebody needs to start taking him down in the Democratic Party. And then I opened up my Wall Street Journal this morning on the Amtrak train, the hard copy, like this, shaking it out. And Rahm has an op-ed in the Journal today. It's about Gavin Newsom. No, it's about Donald Trump. 220. Where's that? What's the number for that one? That's Rahm 113, please. It's an op-ed about Donald Trump, and it makes the argument. We can't, well, here's the headline. Broken windows and Trump era ethics, an old police lesson applies. Disorder sends a signal that it can invite a culture of corruption. He basically says there's so many things Trump's done that's corrupt in his view that people can't lose sight of the fact that it's moving the bar for what's acceptable. And now Trump's doing all sorts of things. He just keeps getting away with it. That's interesting, and of course, it's interesting that Rahm is writing in both the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. But what's most interesting to me is this thing was not researched by Rahm as much as he's a hands-on guy. He clearly has a very good researcher working for him, and it got me wondering whether, and I'm saying Emmanuel will do it, but Dan, is it getting to the point where someone needs to slow down Gavin Newsom by putting out some oppo, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, or is it too soon for that?
I think it's too soon because look, I don't think in a crowded field and a divided party like we are, you want to be so far out in front because all the arrows will start going for you. Like it's hard to sustain that. I do think next spring and summer, as these primaries are happening and other candidates want to start positioning themselves, you will see some stuff. You will. And by the way, I think he is going to have a little rearguard action because of the gubernatorial primary in his own state. I don't think Katie Porter's going to get on in front of the cameras and say, I love Gavin Newsom. I'm going to continue everything Gavin Newsom's doing.
Sean, you think somebody's going to get out or should get out and try to slow him down?
I kind of think that it might be a little soon on that front, and I'd be a little careful. Playing that game is very dangerous because if you get caught, it doesn't end well. And so I only say that because having an experienced team that knows how to drop breadcrumbs without anybody finding the source is important. And secondly, I think right now, if you're a Democrat, the last thing, I mean, I'd love it, but I don't know that you really want to be going blue on blue. It's not like you're missing the opportunity right now. So to be calling them out, there's plenty to be touting yourself. If anything, if I were Rahm or anyone else for that matter, I'd be trying to highlight why I'm the best person, why I'm creating the strategy, why I've got a way forward, why I can lead us out of the wilderness.
Yeah.
But going after somebody doesn't really help you. Right now, I think strategically, this is the moment when people want to say, that's the guy. And that's what Newsom's doing correctly, is that he's the one that's out there, I think, giving people promise and hope that he could be their savior.
Well, he had something tangible, passing a ballot initiative to get these seats. So he had something. Now, he's back.
We talk about Trump consolidating against his Republican rivals by going to East Palestine.
Yep.
And the other stuff he did. And then talked about Newsom's very successful trip to South Carolina. Going to Texas is brilliant. No one else could do that. And I do believe people are starting to talk about him slowing him down. Now, let me ask you this. We've not seen any evidence that any of the potential Democrats have the influence or bandwidth to try to influence the schedule of the early primaries.
That's just about it.
If you were Newsom, Dan, what calendar would you want? What calendar plays to Newsom's strengths?
I would probably want to go maybe Nevada. It's a little more culturally, it's a little more aligned. He's got good relations with labor.
Closer to Sacramento too, by the way.
What's that?
Closer to Sacramento.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Nevada, I think where he doesn't want to go first is probably Iowa. It's a much more progressive area. He's a coastal person in a Midwestern state. South Carolina might be interesting. What about Michigan? What about
Michigan would be where I'd go.
Michigan, I think Michigan, because money's going to matter more than anything. But what about New Hampshire? Should Newsom want New Hampshire to be early or not?
No, because you're the front runner. It's not a place you want to be.
You want to have
story
money.
Is only about who could come up.
Right. New Hampshire gives the small guy the play, and you want to go somewhere where money still matters, power, influence.
So Detroit and Vegas are his two big.
I would say Michigan is nice because it's a lot more diverse.
Yeah.
It's a bigger media market. It's going to cost you a little bit more.
It's also closer. It's also closer.
And then I just don't know from a union standpoint. I would assume. I mean, this is kind of a weird. Which union are you closer to, the UAW or
I think Michigan would be a little bit of a problem for him. I think the environmental stuff is not as black and white in that state. I think that the culture, it's a little more culturally conservative when you get outside of some of those areas. If I were Rahm or Pete Buttigieg, I'd feel a lot better about Michigan.
Yeah.
And Shapiro.
One more on this, Dan, from inside baseball to super inside baseball. Do you think if the Newsom people tries to influence this, they can?
I was just thinking that as you were asking these questions. I don't know. Because I think part of it is like, where's Kamala Harris? Like, who are those people still? They're such institutionalists. I mean, some of those people are still like Terry McAuliffe people and like Clinton people and Obama people. And I don't know behind the scenes if there's a collective set, like, do they all go in a million directions and everyone's cutting deals?
Yep.
I mean, but you know what I would just say, the last thing I'd say is, Mark, you just mentioned it, but I think geography matters. So if you're Newsom and you can pull everybody west, it helps you, and it screws with their schedule a little. Totally. I mean, I would say make them play an away game to the extent you can.
Maybe try to move Arizona up.
Yeah.
All right. Word from two sponsors, and then to your question. So again, if you're here on the platform, want to get in, please raise your hand. Another sponsor for us today, our friends at TakeLean.com. You can get 20% off the entire site. Go to TakeLean.com. Promo code is 2WMM. TakeLean.com. You don't want to use fad diets. Not everybody wants to use injectables. People, stop emailing me about the injectables. I never said they don't work for anybody. Never said they don't work for anybody. I loved hearing from those of you for whom it worked, but they don't work for everybody. Whereas TakeLean.com, avoid weight cycling, going up and down, 10 pounds off, 10 pounds on. Developed by doctors. It's an oral supplement. It allows you to maintain healthy blood sugar, control appetite and cravings, help burn fat by converting it to energy, and you're not taking all the risks you may be taking with those injectables. If you want to lose weight in a meaningful way at a healthy pace and keep the weight off, try the folks at TakeLean.com. Make it part of your diet and exercise lifestyle. 20% off when you enter 2WMM, the number 2WMM at TakeLean.com. Again, that's the number 2WMM at TakeLean.com. Thank you for your attention to that matter. And one more matter that I'll ask you to pay attention to, which is our friends at Poncho. PonchoOutdoors.com/2WMM. Remember that code now. We're using it, 2WMM. PonchoOutdoors.com. You can go there and use that URL. $10 off your first order, plus free shipping for stuff that feels soft and broken in from day one, has just the right amount of stretch. That's why I love the Poncho stuff. Just the right amount of stretch. Doesn't look big on you, but it feels nice and comfortable. It's a good weight, keeps you comfortable all day. It's great in cold weather and wicks the sweat away when it's hot. It's designed for you now. Wrinkle-resistant collar, comfortable stretch, free shipping, free returns, free exchanges if it doesn't fit right. They want you to be comfortable with what you buy. They stand by every shirt. They make it right. If it turns out not to be your favorite, again, opportunity now to get $10 off your first order, free shipping. Go to ponchooutdoors.com/2WMM. And with that, we go to John, because we were talking about South Carolina. John, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Unmute. Tell folks where in South Carolina you are and what's on your mind for Sean and Dan.
What is that behind you?
Good morning, everyone. I live outside of Columbia, South Carolina. And
did they rebuild the Maurice's Piggy Park yet, or is it still?
They have. They're back in full operation.
Full operation. All right.
And I, by the way, I have a good friend of mine, Champ, who runs a barbecue place.
What's it called?
I think
of it. That's all right.
Miss.
That's all right.
Miss Piggy restaurant, I think it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
So for about a month ago, there's been 3 people on the Democratic side who came on and said, listen, there isn't a crime wave. You don't know what's going on in big cities, and you don't have your facts straight. Well, I work for the Baltimore Sun. I was the director of operations for the manufacturing of the printing plant in Baltimore. I had hundreds of employees who lived in Baltimore City. And I've worked at many plants across the country, and at no time did I ever have as much grief and sorrow and pain as I experienced in Baltimore, because employees were coming to me asking for prayer and comfort because their loved ones have been hospitalized because they've been beaten, shot, stabbed, put into a coma, crippled, and a handful of murders. And that caused me to look at Baltimore that says, what on earth is going on? Because I've never, ever lived in such a city or around such a city. And basically, Baltimore has 250 to 300 murders a year. And what people say is, well, years where you're in the low 200s and sometimes you're above 300, they go, look, it's getting better. Now it's getting a little worse. Well, regardless of that, it's always horrendous. And what we know, because I talked to reporters and editors and police, what we know is Baltimore one year reported 80% of the murders happened in 25% of the neighborhoods.
John, I need to interrupt you for some breaking news. And then after I tell that, I'm going to want you to ask your question. Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate all that you said.
Is this about Gronk?
No, Supreme Court rejects call to overturn its decision legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide. There was a belief that the court might take it up and do what they did on abortion. A lot of people in the pro same-sex marriage community, both Democrats and Republicans, were very much hoping for this outcome for fear that that they would be faced with another landmark reversal. John, your question.
So my question is, we know where these crimes are happening. We know when they're going to happen, typically on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. I'm putting the stats up on the screen so anybody that's Democratic can say, okay, here are the facts. Now, you can refute them if you want to. But my question is, it's been 20 or 30 years. Dan, why isn't Baltimore fixed?
I mean, I wouldn't limit that to Baltimore. I mean, this was the insanity of the defense, was that either it's not bad or what is bad is just so accepted because these are bad, quote, bad neighborhoods that, like, okay, so there's a lot of murders in the bad neighborhood that have been for 30 years. Doesn't make it acceptable. I could say the same thing about parts of New York and Boston and LA and, San Fran, and just go on. And by the way, Memphis and St. Louis. And so it should never be acceptable. We should always be striving to drive crime as low or, eliminate would be ideal. But the party made a real mistake on that. And there's two things to separate. There's the anger at Trump, and then there's in local elections, crime is a huge issue. Like here in New York City, the mayoral race, even going back to Eric Adams, voters want crime brought down, period.
Yeah. Because I think that's what's missing in our politics is results. Let's focus on the issue, not the people, and let's get the results because this should not be acceptable in America, regardless who the political parties in power.
Sean.
So Baltimore or the Maryland governor, you have an opportunity to go fix it.
Hold on. Let's just Sean and Sean.
No, I think like the bigger tragedy in this whole thing, and I know it to be the case in DC in particular, but I think it's probably the case everywhere, is that we start to hide the statistics. So we've decriminalized things. We've let people off. We've told cops not to book it. So, we have this big discussion about misinformation. And the reality is that anyone who walks the streets sees what's going on. And then we hide and mask all the real statistics because we don't want it to be as bad as it's supposed to be. And that's the real tragedy of this.
John, thank you. Grateful to you. Thank you so much. All right. Let's go to Jack. Jack, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are.
Mark, I thought the breaking news that you're going to do is that it is apparently official now that Rob Gronkowski is going to sign a one-day contract with the Patriots to officially retire as a New England Patriot. So that's
interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Christmas came early.
There was a good Grok joke on Saturday Night Live on the Weekend Update as well. So he's back. Jack, speaking of back, Jack is back. Jack, welcome back. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
And what you're wearing, Jack?
Oh, my wife ordered this when we were up in Maine and couldn't wait to get back to San Antonio. Best polo I've ever owned.
Tell us why, Jack. Why is it the best polo you've ever owned?
I hate to just repeat everything you always hear every day, but it's soft, it's comfortable. You literally could sleep in it.
Have you?
It's a wonderful shirt.
Yeah.
Jack, try it. I'm telling you.
Shirt. And your wife got you the right size, I see, because fits beautiful.
She sure did.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Jack. Our friends at Fairway and Green will be happy. And stay tuned for later in the week an announcement about another great opportunity for everybody with Fairway and Green. Jack, what's on your mind besides your show?
I have a lot of frustration. Nobody talks too much about it on the shutdown with the role of the media. They've been anything other than an unbalanced reporter of the facts. For example, from my perspective, I think the Democrats, a lot of what they're going after are just perpetuating temporary fixes that were put in place during COVID Of course, on the GOP side of things, from what I can see, the GOP has never, in the entire time since the president first took office, come up with a cogent policy to replace the ACA. And the fact is, I think that if you want to call it the antebellum infrastructure before the ACA, that has disappeared. We're not going to be able to go back to what was there before. We need to, if you don't like it, come up with something different. And I see and there should be a simple explanation for the man on the street, and nobody is stepping up to accept their responsibility.
I've got a different perspective than on your topic than you do, but Sean, you first, then Dan, then I'll go.
I mean, my perspective is that Jack's right. I mean, we should have a better plan. There needs to be more market-driven forces.
Well, no, but what about the question of whether the media coverage was biased to the shutdown?
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, it was pathetic, right? I mean, I flipped over this morning. I had the quad chart on my thing, and there was a reporter on MSNBC, and I literally flipped over, and Scarborough was talking about how the president was trying to exact the most pain out of Americans as possible. He wanted them to suffer and wanted to take food out of their mouths. And I'm like,
well,
that's not exactly.
How about
that's Joe Scarborough.
How about the Washington Post and the New York Times?
Yeah,
I think, like, again, this gets back to, the answer is there was unbelievable bias. The bottom line is Democrats couldn't answer the question, what were they fighting for? And I at the end of the day, that was a valid question. Why did they say what they said in the past about shutdowns, and why was this different? And they got let off the hook every time.
Dan?
I disagree. I actually think the media actually did say what Democrats were fighting for was the ACA extension. I mean, what everyone was fighting for, either reopen the government and then we'll talk, or no, we won't reopen until you do. Like, I thought the media covered. If I turned on Fox, I heard what MAGA thinks. If I turn on MSNBC, I hear what Democrats think. But that's cable news, and I think, Jack, where I would just disagree with you respectfully is healthcare is not an easy, simple issue. If it were, people would have solved it multiple times. People forget pre-ACA, healthcare was horrible. It was the number one issue in poll after poll after poll for a decade because people hated the healthcare. Now people are becoming frustrated because they tried a fix, and the fix needs to be fixed. But the problem is, what is the other, like what is our solution and what is Republican solution? But it is super complicated.
Yeah.
To just say the free market is going to do it, it's just
no. But no. I first of all, just to be clear, I don't think the free market can do it, but I do think that market forces are absent in our current system. Like, no one has an incentive to actually contain cost, to make sure you get. I mean, we have horrible delivery and horrible cost. It's not working anyway. And, Dan, we've used the phrase in the past about, with the tariffs, like, the arsonist started. We were promised something on healthcare. It was a government takeover of this. We lost our doctors. We lost the ability to have our plans, and costs are out of control. That's a fact.
But the government did take it over. It actually was Mitt Romney's base plan that was
I don't care if it was,
driven.
But
okay,
whether it's
so
Mitt Romney's plan or not, it doesn't matter. The bottom line, it sucks.
Okay,
Yeah,
so what's your plan?
On the question of the media, Jack,
I'll try
to say this carefully. The media skewed on this story towards the Democrats, as they always do, but far less than in any shutdown I've ever covered. I actually think this is potentially a watershed. If you look back, Reagan and both Bushes felt the media was biased against them, and they were right. And they complained about it, and they occasionally tried to do something about it, but they didn't succeed. This is a manifestation of the success. They have worked the refs effectively, some in terms of bullying and intimidation, but some on the merits. They convinced a lot of the press. I'm not talking about MSNBC. I'm talking about the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Associated Press. They convinced the press that the Democrats were keeping the government from opening back up because they were fighting for policy changes. Now, again, the Democrats would say it wasn't a change. They were trying for an extension, but it's a change because they're supposed to expire. And I've never seen such relatively fair coverage towards the Republicans of the shutdown. Again, on balance, still anti-Republican. But
wouldn't you agree that look, wouldn't you also agree that in the case of every shutdown, the side that's arguing for the government to stay shut, essentially, or arguing that they want to fight for something, always is the losing side. The Democrats face the least amount of pushback that I've ever seen. Now, granted, Republicans are generally on the flip side of this, but the idea that they didn't face serious consequences.
I thought they faced much more serious
Yeah, I agree.
pushback than I would have expected, and it would have happened pre-Trump. Pre-Trump, it would have all been about healthcare and Donald Trump's meanness. And I saw many interviews on cable, many framings in the Washington Post, New York Times. Democrats are the ones trying.
I was just going to say, you could not go on CNN or MSNBC during the day and not be asked, but you guys are the one who shut the government down. And that was consistent because it's true.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that wouldn't have happened, but wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the president and Caroline and other people just being relentless, not just on this story, but for the last 11 months. And I don't know that it will continue like this, but it's a big change. It's a fundamental change. Yep. And so, Jack, I think you're right that it was not fair, but it was a lot better than it normally is in terms of balance and reporting, I thought. Jack,
one last little thing. Yes, I lived in England during much of the 80s, and I got to see firsthand their national health system. Yeah. There are so many horrendous aspects to that type of healthcare. And of course, in the United States, what this comes down to, we've tragically lost any semblance of compromise, because when I hear words like death panels and some of this bombast, you can never arrive at a reasonable solution with those kind of extremes.
That's true. Yeah. Jack, thank you. Grateful to you for being part of Two Way. Let's see. Conscious of the time. Let me ask you guys one more question, then we'll talk about what we've got coming up. Some people have said to me, yeah, there's lots of drama over the last 40 days and today over the shutdown, but that it's not going to be an issue going forward. It's not something else is going to replace it. Maybe come back in January, but between now and January, it's gone away. Sean, will we be talking about the fallout of the shutdown by the end of this week or not?
I think the House isn't going to vote till Wednesday, Thursday, so we'll still talk about it. But I think as we go into this weekend, I think will be moved on to something else. And if not by then, definitely by the beginning of next week.
Dan, what's the over-under for House Democrats voting yes?
That's the key. I was so glad you brought that up.
Is it 15? 15?
Maybe 10.
I don't think it'll get that high. I think it'll be fewer than 10. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I'm with you.
I think though the issue is this will move on. But remember, January 30th, we could be right back at this same thing with primary season starting
and
in
on
both parties,
and on the eve of the State of the Union too.
By the way, my over/under is 5. I think
mine is too 5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Democrats are gonna.
I don't think they are. Sean, what do you have coming up?
Well, election fallout is what I'm still talking about. Scott Pressler was out there registering folks to vote. He has a lot to say on what went wrong on Election Day, and so we're going to break it all down.
Dan,
going to enjoy my Monday.
I am fresh off the Amtrak, and because my flight was canceled, so I know, there's lots of other victims of the shutdown, but I consider myself now to be in that group of people who have been ill-served. But I had great Wi-Fi on the train, and I'm here in Washington, where I'll be hosting Two Way tonight later this evening, 6 o'clock Eastern time, with my guest, former Ohio Governor John Kasich. Join us at 6 o'clock to talk to him about the events of the day, see what he thinks of the shutdown resolution. And earlier at noon, Citizen McCain, my colleague Megan will join. SE Cup will join Megan at noon. Please join them for a conversation about pretty much everything, including what they think of the shutdown. And Megan was quite active on social media on X over the weekend. If you want to get ready for Megan's little clues about Megan's perspective, I urge you to watch there. As always, if you want to be a sponsor of this program, you can be. Send us an email at sponsors@twoway.tv. We work with our sponsors closely to make sure they get what their metrics of success are. So if you want to join us and be a sponsor of this program or any other show on Two Way, please send an email to sponsors@twoway.tv. And next year, we'll be doing another round to raise money. If you'd like to be an investor in this company at a pretty high level, I won't say the number here, but if you want to invest a lot, if you're interested in learning more about Two Way, send us an email at invest@twoway.tv. Again, invest@twoway.tv. Please don't be hurt or sad or annoyed if we don't get right back to you. We're just collecting names for now, and we'll be back in touch as we get closer to the Series B coming up next year. Thank you for watching. 3 of us will be back here next 23 hours from now. Dan, Sean, and I to take you through the day, and hopefully a little more on the Shaheens, because I think there'll be more folks in New Hampshire now trying to figure out what all this means for the future of not just 2026, but 2028. Can the state whose 2 senators pissed off the base still retain their first in the nation sanctioned status? You don't need to tell me, you New Hampshireites, yes, you'll be first.
Dude, I gotta wait to the Virginia caucus is going to be interesting between Warner and Kane.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching. We'll see everybody. I'll see you at 6. Good day.
See y'all.